All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Punch Me in the Face. I am really excited about today's guest. I was just talking to him for a few minutes, and then I'm like, dude, we got to start because it's actually too good. And then some people, if you ever meet people in your life, I'm a big, like, my daughter would say vibe kind of person, but somebody's aura in the way they carry themselves. Well, first of all, introduce yourself, Josh, real quick, please. Say hi.
Hello, everybody. This way.
Wherever you want, bro. That way, me. It don't matter to me. I'm looking at you. You can look at the camera. Don't matter. They'll pick it up, dude.
I like eye contact.
Me too. They'll pick it up.
So my name is Josh Leidolf, and I go by TRAN PARENT Artist in the art world. So been doing it for a long time. Been an artist since I was about 3 years old. I went to college, Indiana University, for business and fine arts. Ended up choosing business after college because I wanted to understand how business works and not be a starving artist one day with my passion, which is creating beautiful artwork and being creative and sharing that with the world. So focused on business for a long time and then slowly transitioned into the art world full-time as a professional.
Got it. Well, first of all, thanks for being here.
Of course.
Definitely the best dressed guy we've had in the podcast, Durango. There's no doubt about it. Like, you got to I got to go get changed. You got to step your game up here. Me, I got to when I'm around Josh. We were talking, and I want to kind of jump right into it because I've researched you a lot, and typically when I get like a one-sheet or get information, honestly, I'll research, and I want to know who I'm talking to. That's important. It's respectful. But I started reading a lot and looking at a lot of stuff you do, which was really cool to me because people always say like my mind doesn't work that way. And I think sometimes that's a cop-out, but from a creativity standpoint, the stuff you've done, and we'll get to that in a minute, was really cool. First of all, I need you to do something for me.
Sure.
Like without a doubt, because it's really, really badass stuff you do. And we were talking before we started. A lot of our folks, Josh, are, they're independent contractors, they're self-employed, and they're a lot of times trying to take what they love and make it a business, which is kind of where, like, you love what you do. Mm-hmm. You can tell by the way you talk about it. Yeah. You love it, I go by, like I had a guy out the other day and I was like, hey, what are y'all doing? I didn't know they were supposed to come to my property. And they were diving down, fixing the lights I have in the water. And people are like, why do you have lights in the water? I'm like, why not? Like, they don't do anything other than look really cool at night, right? And they said, we're the divers. And I said, they have like shit on. So I was like, oh, you look like the divers, almost like apologized. And I was like, hey, who are you? And the one guy was like, yeah, thanks. The other guy turned around and said, I'm not I'm just, that's my job. And I was like, yeah, bro, like, relax. Like, I wasn't like, I just said you look like a diver. Like, you in pretty good shape. Like, you can dive down and come back up. And but I'm like, okay, I got it. And, it's funny because a lot of people, but I thought to myself after that, it's kind of sad. Because, like, I love what I do. I do. I love it. I can't pretend. I loved when I was a social worker. I loved when I got in the real estate. And then when I stopped loving it, I would do something else if I had to. Like, real estate was great. 08 hit. I saw a lot of good people get hurt. So that was hard for me. And I didn't create it. I didn't create mortgage derivatives. I wouldn't work on Wall Street. I didn't have inside information. But I did also watch property values get to a point where you're like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like, I just knew that. So, Josh, talk to everybody, because people will talk to me a lot, and you've done it. Because he's done some pieces for some very famous people. I was like, damn, he knows everybody. Like, I was like, pretty cool. Well, I'm going to start there. Who's the coolest person, I don't care if they're famous or not, that you've done a piece for? You're like, man, this guy or girl is just really cool, and here's why. Who would that be?
I've been blessed to do some really cool pieces for some really cool people, as 100%. You said.
Give them some names of people they would definitely know.
I've done stuff for Richard Branson, Schwarzenegger, Post Malone, Guy Fieri. Guy has probably become my closest of friends within that celebrity circle. He and I just vibe because he's just a guy. Yeah. That's what I love about him the most, is that he built this entire industry and all this fame and fortune based on being himself, not having to act in a way to make people love him. Don't get me wrong. I don't disrespect actors or actresses or whatever. I think it's a beautiful art, but they're acting.
Correct.
They're pitching someone else's lines in a way that people can emotionally connect with. Guy, what you see is what you get. I've been backstage with him on multiple scenes for multiple shows that he shot, and none of that's scripted. None of it. That is 100% from him. He is that witty. He's that quick. He's that funny. That's who he is. And I think that's why so many people resonate with him. I think that's why he's so globally famous and connectable. Like, I've been to like small towns in random countries with him where people are like, Guy Fieri. Like, it's great. Everyone. I think he's one of the most recognizable people on the planet. And I'm sure the hair doesn't hurt, but it's because people can relate to him.
Yeah.
And most things are about that vibe. You know what I
Right.
mean? That feeling of being able to feel connected to somebody, even if you're in completely different industries, a world away, he's in his private jet and you're working at McDonald's, people still love the guy.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy.
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember going to a game, and it wasn't in Miami. It was a big NBA game. And this is years ago. And he stands up, and he's on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is that? Because I just don't, like, I'm in such a, and people are going nuts. And then I literally said to myself, like, because I was so intrigued by stuff. And I'm like, what does he do for a living? So I start Googling him, and I'm start looking at it. And I'm like, there's got to be something, right? Which now it makes sense. I don't know the guy at all. Seems cool. His hair's whack. It's awesome. He pulls it off. He's got great fashion. Seems like a good dude. He always seems to be happy, too, when I see him, like, at these games. He doesn't seem to be faking it. Have you met, have you met some, has everybody, I want to ask this right way, and I don't want you to give me, have you met certain people and been like, man, like, they weren't that nice. They just were kind of cold. I don't want you to, but I mean, has it like...
Well, so in most of the capacities that I meet these people, they've requested to commission me for
So how does
artwork
that work? How do they find you? The celebrity group, how do they find you?
It's a multitude of ways. Most of it's word of mouth, right?
Okay.
Like, because my first 3 pieces ever were pretty much sold to celebrities. So
Who was the first one? First celebrity piece you sold?
my first piece ever went to Chris Osceola, who basically is the multi-billionaire behind all the Seminole Indians.
Yeah.
And then Dwayne Wade and Pitbull.
How'd you find Chris?
Actually, I met Chris at an auction. Chris was bidding. Yeah, it was amazing. My first piece ever, I watched 2 guys going absolutely crazy in an auction over the piece. They both wanted it so bad, and the numbers were getting really, really
Your
high.
piece.
My piece. And the goosebumps I had, I can't even explain to you because I was so happy that my art resonated with other people, right? It's one thing to be creative, and it's another thing to be loved for that creativity, and people connect with that. I love humans, so I want that global kind of connective tissue, you know, that neuroplasticity of humans. I want that. So when I saw that people were into my stuff, or people were fighting, and if somebody really likes your stuff, they'll put their money where their mouth is.
100%.
Right? So when I saw these guys going like this, and then I saw Chris over here, and I saw another guy over here, and I saw a girl come and whisper this guy's ear, and all of a sudden he quit bidding, and it sold. And then the guy came up to me afterwards, and he goes, I would have kept bidding, but the girl told me he was a billionaire.
Yeah, like so, I'm gonna let up on that.
I want to chill. So, so I have no clue what that would have went to if he wouldn't have gotten that memo. But I'm just happy that people resonated with it. And then
hear what you just said, because this is as the money's going up and the bids are going up, much higher than you expected. Obviously, it seemed like you're caught off guard.
It was, totally, yeah.
He didn't say, dude, I was counting. I couldn't believe it. I was counting the money in my mind. It was like I couldn't believe people appreciated what I did that much.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if people don't like, I see guys and girls start businesses all the time. They have all these unbelievable ideas. And then they forget that, dude, people will work to make money, but they will kill for respect and recognition. And I don't mean literally, but they'll kill themselves. They'll work harder. They'll put in more hours. They'll sell out for the team. And they respected your work. The money you're working for anyway, but like it's like, dude, these guys respect what I did. Yeah. It resonated with them.
Totally.
So that was your first. So you didn't know him. You're at an auction, got in there. You're like, cool. So then now you had a billionaire fan, friend, connection. Yeah. So how did you get Dwayne Wade and some of those other guys from there?
So a buddy of mine is Judd Allison, and then he owns 305 Films, who does all the production for Lil Wayne, Drake, Akon, Usher, all those guys, DJ Khaled, for all their music video shoots. And my best friend, Johnny Frank, who owns the Auto Toy Store, he has supplied all the exotic vehicles for their music video shoots over the years. So I already had somewhat of a business / celebrity / network because I told you I focused on business after college. I moved down here almost 20 years ago. Yep. So I already had a nice established group of friends that respected me anyway, just from other things, not even art, right? So it was nice having that in. And then Gil and Judd hosted Dwayne Wade's homecoming party after the Miami Heat won their 3rd big championship with him. Dwayne, when LeBron was here, they had 2, but most people forgot that Dwayne won one with Shaq in 2006. Correct. So after their 3rd one, I did this big party for them at Art Basel, and then that's where there was tons of celebs there, man. Flo Rida, like I said, Pitbull, Udonis Haslem, Dwayne Wade. So just that kind of trickled down.
Udonis Haslem is a gangster.
Oh, totally.
Dude, I was at game.
He's a collector.
Dude, I was at Game 7, Boston, Miami this past year.
Okay.
They lost game 6. And I was like, sweet. I want to go to Boston. My son's a big Heat fan, his buddies. I'm like, let's go. So we go to the game, and we're sitting right behind the Heat bench, okay? And you ever been to like a game in Boston?
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, if you live in Boston, I love you. I'm not mad at you. They think they're on the team. Like, no, they think they're on the, like, dude, we walked in to the Garden, whatever they call it now, TD, whatever, and they're booing these guys because they have Heat jerseys. Like, this is what they're doing. Like, they're screaming. And they're like, literally would come up every once in a while and they're screaming. I'm like, if one of these guys gets near me, I'm going to punch him in his fucking mouth. You know what I mean? Because I'm not bothering anybody. Like, I ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? I don't invade people's space. I don't disrespect them. But I'm also not like, you know what I mean? I'd rather be dragged out of there in handcuffs than let somebody spit at me, get in my face, or put their hands on me. So we're sitting right behind a bench. And there's this obnoxious, this just prototypical, too short, unathletic, you know, wannabe guy who spent way too much money to sit in the court, okay? And I don't know what he's saying. Udonis Haslam's like not playing. He's been around a long time. Sure. Unbelievable player, still doing his thing, crazy supporter from what I see. What do I know? Watching him, right?
No, you're right, though.
And this fan just won't stop. So I'm literally as far away from you as Haslam is from this fan. And the guy's just, and I don't know what he's saying. Whatever it struck a nerve with everybody. And Haslam just turned around and he was like, I will smack the shit out of you. Like, I will straight smack the shit out of you. Just like that. Like, literally 2 times. Straight out. Like, I'll smack the shit out of you. And the guy gave him this look, and all of a sudden he's the victim, right? He's saying all these things to him, and he's cussing everybody out, and he just turns around and is like, here's what I will do. And he calls the guy's like calling security, and I'm watching this whole thing. And Haslam's just going back to the bench, like he don't care, you know what I mean? And then they got Karan Butler over there as one of the assistant coaches. Karan's over there like him, and I'm just thinking like, I wish more people in life, like you're not put here to be tormented by anybody, you know. So I love that with Haslam. Like, dude, that's one of my favorite guys right now. Yeah. They're like, who's your favorite player tonight? I was like, Haslam. He didn't even get in the game, you know what I mean? But it was great. All right, so your art. Because I've watched, first of all, it's really badass.
Thank you.
If you've not seen it, like, I'm being honest, like, I know where I want to put one, right? That's really badass. How did that come to be? Like, where did that thought process, that idea, and then how did you create it into what you've created today?
So this is kind of a crazy story. So I told you I've been an artist since I was a kid. I think I probably started painting murals on my parents' walls at 2-3 years old with crowns. You know what I mean? And probably food products and stuff. You know what I mean? I wish I still had those, actually. They'd probably be worth a lot of money.
They probably would be.
I have a bunch of sketches and stuff I did from college. So in certain classes that I wasn't interested in, that I just had to take for credits, I would
did your thing.
Oh, I had notebooks full of sketches, man. But I still have those, which is cool. But I will tell you that what's interesting about this, as I said, I actually got in. My first job out of college actually was with Northwestern Mutual.
Really?
So yeah, I always wanted to be an astronaut or a professional baseball player.
You for real want to be an astronaut?
I wanted to be an astronaut as a kid. You know, your like dream.
Yeah.
Like as an artist, I never said I wanted to be an artist because I already felt like I was an artist. If that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Right? I was like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to go into space. I want to see the views of the cosmos, you know? And then I loved baseball. I was really good at baseball. So I wanted to, but I didn't get a full ride scholarship to FSU, which is where I wanted to go. Yeah. When I graduated high school, they were the #1 baseball school in the country. And I felt like I was depleted. I felt like I was just taken away. All my energy was like the wind was taken out of my sails. So I was like, all right, so whatever. All right, I'm not going to go to FSU. And it was like $24,000 a year out of state. Not saying I couldn't have worked and afforded it. I just didn't have the mindset back then to do something like that. I was like, well, I'll just take the easier route out, which was I went to Indiana University. Like I said, studied art and business. And then out of college, my first job was with Northwestern Mutual.
Wow.
So yeah, selling insurance products. And I was like, I don't know if the stockbroker way is going to be my way, because the more I was in an office, I was very successful because a lot of people in my town knew me. And I was already very connected. I'd already been there for 10 years. People trusted me, respected me, liked me. I actually made a lot of money, but I didn't feel fulfilled because I have more of that, I guess, left side of the brain that's more of the...
Correct.
I needed to be out. I want to be painting walls.
It was calling at you.
Yeah,
it was pulling at you.
Right,
You
exactly.
couldn't get off it.
Yeah. But I still wanted to learn business. So I actually moved to South Florida with $700 in my car. Oh,
Really?
I'm sorry. I moved down here with $700 in my pocket in my car.
In your car.
My clothes, my TV. I had one of those old box bubble TVs.
Really?
Yeah, dude, this was 2005. You know, remember the big bubble before the
Dude,
plastic?
sure the hell do, bro.
So,
yeah, I'm 50 years old. I remember that.
It was a green 94 Firebird with T-tops, okay? 94 Firebird, cool car, super, well, at least I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And I literally had this seatbelt around the TV and the passenger side seat. Literally, my little brother was playing college baseball at Murray State in Kentucky. He had a game in Evansville, Indiana, where I lived. And that night, after the game, me and my family, we all went to dinner, and I told my family, I said, I love you guys, but I'm moving to Florida. And they were like, what? I literally drove to Florida that night. It was 4/20/2005, right? And I drove all through the night. Literally made it all the way to Orlando, had to stop, take a 30-minute nap, woke up to these kids speaking Spanish. I'm like, I'm in Florida.
Yeah, you're here.
And then drove the rest of the way to Fort Lauderdale, and then just kind of made my way with $700 in my pocket. Now I have $800. 20 years later, I got $800.
Why Florida? Why Florida at the time?
I love it, man. I can make this a long story, but I'll make
How
it short.
old were you then?
I was 23.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I can make this a very long story, but I lived down here as a kid, fell in love with it. You can ask my mom and dad. I was always out in the sun, naked, on the beach. Like, I just loved Florida. And then we moved to Indiana, like 6 feet of snow in the wintertime. And I'm like, where are we? But my Aunt Joyce, she's my great aunt, actually. She's no longer with us. However, when she was alive, she was the only person in my family that when it was like Christmas time, instead of like getting me like traditional clothes or socks or something like that, she was the one who was like this world traveler who was she just got back from the pyramids or spent a month in Switzerland or just went to Australia.
Yeah.
And she would bring me, and she knew I was into that. So she would bring me home books, travel books and photos of these amazing places and tell me stories about these places. And she always gave me the travel bug since I was a kid. And my family, I told you my dad was a fairly successful guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no doubt.
He did work for other people. However, he also had his own businesses. So he was like a GC, built houses on the side and would do renovations.
Did work with Huizenga, the owner of Dolphin. He had some big connections.
Yeah, so born in Virginia, lived down here in the 80s. With my dad was working for Huizenga. It's a crazy story, but raised in Evansville, Indiana. So long story short, I had always just had this inspirational, adventurous kind of I don't know, I guess attitude towards life. I learned at an early age that life is super short and you kind of have to just like jam it in if you really want to feel like you did it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my Aunt Joyce is the one who gave me that. She instilled that in me. So anyway, long story short, this is crazy serendipitous, but I'm down in South Florida at what is now Beach Place.
Okay.
You know, the Hooters at
Yeah.
Beach Place? So I'm with my girlfriend and my buddy and a few other girls at the time. We're down here on spring break, senior year at Indiana University. So this would be like 2003, 4.
Yep.
Actually, spring of 04. So March of 2004. I'm sitting at that Hooters looking at the ocean, and I'm just like, this is one of the most beautiful scenes I'd ever seen in my life, right? The palm trees, the white sand, the blue water, it was just beautiful. My phone rings while I'm sitting there looking at it. And I was actually thinking about my aunt because I'm like, if you have the motivation to go out and explore and see things you want to see and do things you want to do, like the universe will reward you for that because you had the balls to just go out and take it. So I'm sitting there, my phone rings. My little crappy Nokia little flip 2003 cell phone, my first cell phone I ever had. And it's my mother, and she goes, hey, Aunt Joyce isn't doing great. And she told me I got the news about my Aunt Joyce having cancer while I'm sitting looking at this view. It's crazy. So I just said to myself, like, I'm going to move here one day, you know? And it wasn't long after, actually. It was just like a year and a half later or whatever. No, just over a year, 13 months later, I moved. I just put my stuff in my car and drove. So graduated, worked for Northwestern Mutual, not even for a year, 8-10 months. Like I said, though, built a great business, a book of business, you know, was crushing it. I guess what you would consider to be crushing it compared to all the other people in my class. I was crushing it. I mean, they had maybe 2 or 3 accounts. I think 30 accounts in 8 months. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that would have just compounded and extrapolated into like who knows what. Yeah. But I wasn't feeling fulfilled with it. So that's why I got out of what I did and started to get into other things. So anyway, the way I got into art professionally was, this is crazy. So 15 years ago, a buddy of mine, he started an online publication, and I always wanted to be, as an artist, I always wanted to also be a journalist. So I would interview my favorite celebrities, my favorite artists, my favorite DJs, and I would learn from them. I would learn from them. I wasn't just like, this wasn't a selfish thing. I mean, partially, but I didn't want to just like give them the platform. It was like an Andrew Carnegie thing where I would interview them and ask them questions about what they did wrong in their business career and like what mistakes, if I go this route, what can I do to not screw up? You know, I'm one of these humans, thank God, that doesn't like to learn from my own mistakes. I like to learn from other people's mistakes. A lot of humans are stubborn that way where they have to learn to feel it. I feel other people's
God bless
trauma.
you.
Thanks, bro.
I've learned from beating the hell out of myself. But I love you.
I bet
Good
you
for
have. I bet you have, for sure. So I think I feel humans so much that like I can learn from their trauma. So that's what I did. I just like absorbed as much information as I could. So not only was I running my own businesses, I had a sales and marketing consulting business, had a digital marketing media company, SEO, SEM, social media, all that stuff. Some other things too, raising capital here and there. But the main thing was I need to learn these things because this is what I want to do with my life. I want to have an extraordinary life. I want to do something really cool and unique that's going to resonate with people. And like the materials I use for my art, for example, have a 500-year shelf life. So like, can you imagine, like Da Vinci was 500 years ago. Okay? And I'm not saying I'm Da Vinci, I'm not. But can you imagine 500 years
But
from
whatever
now?
I get, my great grandkids can have.
Exactly. It becomes a family heirloom asset that's willed down forever, right? Yep. And a customized note on the back or the piece is customized to you. Everybody's going to know who you were, like whatever, you know what I mean? So, yeah, can you imagine 500 years from now people are talking about you and I because we commemorated you in a piece of art or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like that, whereas most artists don't. Like when I start talking about museums with other artists my age, they're like, what? Dude, you got big goals. I'm like, you don't? Like, what do you want to do? Just sell like, pop art on the beach for the rest of your life? No, like we're dope artists. Like we need to we share this experience, share this moment with humans and capture these moments and commemorate it in a piece of art, I think.
Unbelievable.
So here's where it gets real crazy, and I think you'll really like this part. So this gentleman has become a very close friend of mine. So I was a journalist for a long time, and I had access to the wire. So I'd write articles for these people, and we'd blast it out. And I would also share those tips with other people. I'm not a selfish person. I even share art ideas with artists all the time. My friends, my close friends call me Captain Idea. And most people hoard ideas.
Correct.
I'm a very non-selfish person. I believe, I don't have a mentality of poverty. I have a mentality of abundance.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you always have to hoard everything, you always have to steal money from people and like have this selfish mentality, the universe will put you in that bubble. You'll be stuck there forever.
Yeah, amen.
But if you're like, listen, I'll share my ideas. I want everybody to make money. Like it starts to compound and grow. Somebody like you who has tons of employees, you know that, right? So anyway, here's what happened. So 6-7 years ago, I get a call from a buddy of mine who's one of my business partners. We own some hotels together in the Bahamas. He goes, hey, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, what's up? He goes, well, I'm really good friends with this famous counterfeiter out of Chicago, Arthur J. Williams Jr. The guy's like the most famous counterfeiter in history, by the way. Okay. Super cool dude, hysterical, love this guy. Okay. So he was... he counterfeited like $200 million worth of $100 bills. The 96 Big Face. Yeah. Remember when that came out? Okay, he counterfeited $200 million worth of those for the Chicago mob.
Okay.
For 15 years, from like 96 until, like 2011. Never got caught.
So they were circulating and nobody knew. Everybody was good. They were that good.
Secret Service knew just because there was duplicate serial numbers, but that's the only reason why.
They couldn't track it, couldn't figure it out.
He busted every one of the security features, including the marker. He found the right newspaper. Believe it or not, it was phone book paper he discovered was the paper he used to counterfeit his money. Yeah, and he had the intaglio printers, and he had the security strip in the middle, and the watermark, and all that stuff. I mean, the guy even the metallic paint.
He's brilliant.
The holographic metallic paint. What's really cool is so hold on to that one. So here's what he did. Arthur ended up getting caught 15 years after evading the Secret Service. But he didn't get caught because he got caught. His son, he didn't know it, his like 16-year-old son was counterfeiting like shitty fake 20s. And one day, as a father and son would do, they're in the streets of Chicago, the South Side guys, right? Rough, tough dudes. Yeah. So Artie grabs his son and has him like in a headlock, and he's like, because his son's being a dumb shit, so he's like,
playing around.
The cops think it's like two men fighting, so the cops arrest him. And when they pulled the kid's wallet out, his son's wallet, they found all these shitty 20s, and they found one perfect 100 with a duplicate serial number to a real Federal Reserve $100 bill. Shit. So they got the dad on RICO charges. So the dad and the son went to prison together. There's photos of them in prison together, dude. It's crazy. Like, craziest story. And this guy's become a really good friend of mine. So he did 7 years in prison for RICO. Okay. While he's in prison, he said to himself, he's like, 87% of inmates go back to prison. How can I...
make sure I don't go back.
Yeah, how can I enlighten and elevate myself to make sure I don't go back, right? So he was like, I want to do something that's like, obviously not super illegal, which is like counterfeiting U.S. currency, because the government doesn't like that shit. So anyway, so what he started to do is he started to paint. He started reading manuscripts on Da Vinci and Michelangelo and these guys in prison. That's all he had was time. And then there was an art class, so he started to like paint and draw large-scale money art. So like he was still printing money, but like as a legal profession.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when he got out of prison, my buddy calls me. He says, I need a favor. I said, what's up? He goes, well, this guy, Arthur J. Williams Jr. is my good friend. I want you to please interview him and write an article about him and try to help, boost him up. I said, absolutely. The story sounds incredible, right? And then there was like a New York Times bestselling book about the guy. Rolling Stones had interviewed this guy. It was a big deal, you know what I mean? And so I ended up interviewing him and falling in love with his personality and his character. I mean, the dude's really cool. And ended up getting him a 1-hour presentation on Vice Media, which is a big deal, man. Like when it aired Vice UK, it got like 100 million views like instantly. Wow. Then it went up Vice United States. Now it's probably got collectively a few billion views if you look at both of them over time.
Wow.
So the guy's become kind of a household name in regards to that. He's one of the most famous money artists in the world. And he's incredibly talented, super cool dude. So anyway, here's how this all transpired. So he calls me like 6 months later and he goes, hey, I need your help. And I said, what do you need, another article? And he goes, well, I actually want an idea for art, if you don't mind. Like, come up with an idea for a way to depict money that no one's ever done before. And I was like, okay, well, let me think about it, right? So that night, I'm hanging out. It's like midnight. And I'm with a friend and we're just kind of like artistically creative, like we're smoking a joint.
100%.
Right?
That's very creative, yeah.
And at midnight, like I just get this epiphany to show all the security features that he broke in his, because like his story is as cool as the art.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fact that you broke 27 security features to be able to counterfeit a bill, where he was so good that when the prosecutor in court had the real
Couldn't
100
tell.
and the fake 100, they accidentally screwed up the evidence. They were like, oh shit, like we don't know which one's which. You know what I mean? Like that's how good he was. So I'm like, why don't you show people how good you were? Yeah. Right? So why don't we like memorialize all these security features in a transparent piece of money art? And he was like, oh, well, that's a cool idea, but it's not my style. And I'm like, bro, this is totally your style. This is right.
It's you.
Yeah.
This is what you did.
And one thing he didn't know is like, I had already been massively inspired to do money art by a guy named Mr. E, who's up here locally. He's a money artist. He does like big screen prints of like $100 bills and stuff. Not as artistic as somebody like Artie or I think myself, but like still doing large scale money art. Like I was like, this is cool. You know what I mean? And also, my father had like an insane currency collection growing up. So like 7,000 money notes from all over the world. And I would always look at them and I would say like the art is so cool. Like the actual intaglio printed art is cool, but like the paper is bland. It's like, I could make this so much cooler. I always said that to myself. I always wanted to be a money artist. How crazy is that? But obviously I wasn't trying to step on my boy's toes.
Right.
So I gave him the idea to do transparent currency art. He didn't want to do it.
He's like, I'm good.
I started to put like actual renderings of what it would look like together to send to him. And I'm like, bro, he's like, oh, that's super cool, but like, it's not my style. I'm like, bro, listen, I'm going to ask you man to man for your blessing. If you don't want to do this, I want to do this. You know, I'm an artist, right? He's seen some of my paintings I've done. He knew I was an artist, right? He knew that I loved currency and he knew I was inspired previously by Mr. E. So I'm like, respectfully, man to man. And this is a dangerous dude. Yeah. Like super dangerous, connected to all four mobs in Chicago, the Russian, Irish, Italian, and the Chinese triad. Somebody you don't want to mess with. But I came to him like a man, without fear, and I said, I want your blessing to do this, because if you're not going to do this, bro, I'm going to, like, there's 10,000 money artists in the world, and no one is doing it where you see the back of the bill, the front of the bill, and all the hidden security features in one single image. Correct. And that's one of the big things about being an artist, is having the skill, having the story, and coming up with an idea that no one has thought of before. And that's where that came. That's where Transparent was born, was me trying to do a favor for a friend that didn't want it. Correct. And then I built it myself from there, you know?
All right, so that was what year?
That was 2017.
Okay, couple things, because I think people hear and they don't listen, or they listen and don't hear, right? Like when you said, I went to him and I was like, hey, bro, man to man, I want your permission. You had no obligation to do that. You're a good dude, but people in business all the time don't realize the value of relationships. Like you can screw somebody over one time. Like I did real estate I still do it to this day. I started when I was 18. There's nobody you'll meet that'll go, he fucked me over. You won't. There might be somebody that goes, I was selling something, I was broke, he didn't really want to buy it, he came in, told me it's worth more, but I can't pay more. But there's nobody's going to say I screwed them over. Because the reality is, you're being real nice. In 2017, somebody said to me the other day, they said, that guy's in the mob. I'm like, dude, Sammy the Bull's alive. It's over. He's walking the fucking streets unless he's arrested again, but ain't nobody whacked his ass.
Right.
So it's kind of like the first generation makes it, the second generation just enjoys it, the third generation destroys it. Right. All them grandkids now are like, hey, tell on each other and fucking get arrested right away. So you did it. I love it. It's great. You said that, you gave him his acknowledgement, but at the end of the day, you did it because that's just good business. Yeah. That's just good. You're a good person anyway. But that's also just good business. Like you could have went and created something else. You know, I've had people bring. Can you imagine if somebody brought me an idea and I was like, "Yeah, that's not good," and I snuck and I went and did it. Like that would just be awkward. You know, like when you've done things in business, people are like, "Why'd you pay him? Like you had no legal obligation to do it." I'm like, it's not about my legal obligation to do it. A, I want to sleep at night.
Sure.
You know, that was one of the things I told my kids early on in sales. They're like, "Well, Dad, why do you?" And then they call you at 10. Why do you? I'm like, because guys, well, no matter where I am in life, and no matter where I run into these people, I don't ever want to be like I want to be like them to go, that's my guy. That's my real estate agent, insurance agent, guy I run a business, my investor. I want them to be happy to see me, even though it may not be going great, but I didn't screw them over. That's worth more than any amount of money, right? Because your story, and also the connections. It does, at some point in time, you just have to have some balls. You just have to have some backbone to go, you know what? I'm going to talk to these people. Because all the things you did, they weren't breaks. They were things you created. They were ideas you had, things you wanted to do, and people you were willing to reach out to. And then they were like, which is probably why most of the people that encounter you are good with you, because of the way you carry yourself, and also that you're courageous. Like, and if somebody says, no, I don't want to do that, you're like, okay. Like, it's just you carry yourself without fear of what people are saying, doing, and how they react. You become a lot more successful. So you got to see is we'll put his stuff up. We'll get you a link to him because it's unfreaking believable. And I'm going to get one. And I'm actually very excited to see what you put together for me. Like, I just, as a person, I'm like, I wonder it lasts 500 years. Like, I wonder how he sees me and my depiction. So I'm actually excited about that. But you said a couple things that I want to come back to. You know, you learn by other people's mistakes. That's a gift. And you need to try to find a way to have that, because I can tell you I don't. And I'm at 50. How old are you?
I'll be 42 in November.
You age really good, bro. He's going to be 80 and look like he's freaking 30.
Bro.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying
moisturize.
to do moisturize now, dude. I ain't too proud to say it. So, but I got in the waste management business. Okay, your dad doing waste management, handling all that Hyzenga stuff.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
And I remember there was a guy, and I was in Connecticut, and I think a lot of them watched the movie Goodfellas way too much. They were all excited, right? And that's fine. I mean, they watched the movie, thought they lived the movie. That's cool. And there were 4, I don't say families, but 4 groups of people that own these companies forever. And I remember I was getting in, and I have a friend of mine who's a very successful business person. He's an attorney, but very successful in multitudes of businesses. And I said, I'm getting in the waste management business. And he said, that's a bad idea. And I said, why? He said, because it's controlled by 4 companies. You'll never be big enough to get a big enough piece to make money. And secondly, he said, where are you going to dump the trash you pick up? Because those 4 families own all the landfills. I said, well, there's an incinerator, which is actually in the town that my kids went to school in. And he's like, okay, good luck. I buy 100 dumpsters. I buy 5 trucks. I get my buddy Sean, who's the hardest working dude I ever met in my life. He'll work 200 hours a week. And we start getting crazy busy. And after a period of time, the incinerator burns to the ground. Now, it wasn't Goodfellas, but I don't think it burned by itself. It burned to the mother effing ground, okay? So that part I was down with. I was like, these guys, they're still willing. They burnt to the ground. Now, I have all this trash I'm picking up. Where do I dump it? So I go to these guys, try to find out who's in charge of what. And I'm like, hey, man, they're like, okay, $110 a ton. I'm like, but I was paying $35 over there. They're like, yeah, that's the price. Off the street price, $110. I'm like, but I own a business. They're like, yeah, why would we give you a better price than we give Tommy Smith? Tommy Smith's not competing with us. We don't need the trash. I mean, we got plenty of trash. And I had this this feeling of like, oh shit. We redefined ourselves as a company. So I was like, okay, I can't compete with them on this level. It took about a week to lick my wounds. And I went back to one of them and said, what do you want me to do? Guy's probably 70 years old. Big old boy, shirt button out all the way down. I don't even know I had a shirt on because none of it was buttoned. Like, he had the very last button. It was like, it's kind of gratuitous to have the shirt, dude. There's no shirt. And he's big dude. Like, he's heavy. He's a big boy. He has an Italian horn thing right all down here. And I sit down. He does this with his fingers. Like, he kind of asked me to sit down. So I was like, all right, man. And I said, what do you want me to do, man? Like, talk to me about what you want me to do. He said, don't buy any of the bigger trucks where they do like the trash can pickup. You can do dumpsters. Here's the area you can do it in. And you're like, well, what did you do? I did what the fuck he said I could do. So I want to make a living. And actually, I took some ideas. I said, well, can you give me some ideas of how I could, you're cool with all that. How do I make that more profitable? And he said something to me, I'll never forget. He said, your problem, Sean, is you guys think busy is profitable. Just because the dumpsters are moving, it doesn't make them profitable. What percentage of your customers are contractors compared to homeowners? Mm-hmm. I said, we're 80% contractors. He goes, that's your first problem. Contractors typically don't pay their fucking bills. Mm-hmm. They're a pain in the ass. They know exactly how much to overload that thing. They'll drive you fucking crazy. They'll keep them forever. They won't bring them back. Homeowners have a credit card. Mm-hmm. And they pay you. They don't want you to lean their house. Contractors don't care. That's like they're professional. I was a contractor for a long time. I was a GC. So I hired subs forever. And I've never seen so many people rob Peter to pay Paul in my life. I'm like, dude, I paid you on Wednesday. How you broke on Friday?
Right.
Like what it's been 2 days. You know what I mean? So it really was a lesson learned and the gift you've had because you've done so much research. Like in here. You know, it's funny because you're like, I love that creative. We're sitting there smoking weed. I applied to the police academy. I don't even know why my buddy dared me to. And I got a job and they fired me 4.5 months into it because I was definitely not a good fit. Even I couldn't make it out of the academy without doing stuff, getting drunk, fighting people. And they were like, dude, you got to go. Like, you're a massive liability. And I was on a board of police commissioners interview panel. True story. They're all there in this town in Connecticut. They asked me all these questions. There's a pastor at the end of the thing. He says, I'd like to ask you about your substance abuse history. And I was like, okay, I've been sober now. Next month will be 23 years.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much. That's why I'm here. Yeah, thank you very much. Wow. And he says, can you walk us through? Because when you go to the police academy, you take a polygraph. It's like 8 hours. That's what mine was. They ask you, there's like 8 categories, everything you can imagine from what kind of drugs you use, were you been in a gang, do you want to hurt an animal, like, do you want like crazy stuff that you don't even want to think about because they don't want to see how jacked up you are and you're on a polygraph, you're connected. So he says, we need to ask you about your substance abuse history. I said, okay. And he's like, have you used marijuana? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, how many times? And I was like, let's see. Probably about 2,100. He's like, 2,000? I said, well, I started when I was in 8th grade. I went high every day to school. There's 365 days. I don't know exactly. And then we're going on and on. He's like, well, can you tell us? I'm like, I've used cocaine. I smoke crack. I'm like, but I love mushrooms. I was going on and on. I was like, and they were for like 20 minutes. So I walk out and I'm like, obviously I didn't get the job. Obviously, right? Like that would make no kind of sense. Next day they call me. They're like, hey, you're hired. And I was like,
I love the honesty.
Yeah, and they were like, they asked my criminal history. I'm like, oh, I've been arrested. They're like, you've been arrested? I'm like, I've been arrested like 7, 8 times. But I applied and like walked through all the charges. They were like misdemeanor, fighting, arguing. Me and my buddies see 3 other guys and want to fight them for no reason other than there's 3 other guys and want to fight them. And I'm drinking and doing stupid stuff. My only art I've ever done in my life was I got arrested for this. I duplicated licenses. I wasn't good at it, though. I used to take Helvetic lettering, 6-point, I don't know why I remember this, put this paper over it, and I would just kind of redraw the numbers and then laminate them by hand. They were terribly done.
You talking about fake IDs?
Yes.
Oh, bro, we got to make a fake ID piece for you then.
Dude, I crushed it with fake IDs for a long time. And then my buddy got a Department of Motor Vehicle board, and we'd bring people over and take pictures in front of it in Rhode Island to get the board. So anyway, I got arrested for that, and that was a felony allegedly, but that was whatever. And but it's funny because real people, I like real people. I don't want to figure out what you're about. I'd like you to tell me what you're about. I want to feel it. I want it to exude off of you. So all the people on here, I could talk to you for hours. All the people on here, a lot of people on here, a lot of the questions they give me are, I really know what I want to do. Like I feel like I know what I want to do for a living and and take care of my family. How do I deal with it when it's not going well? When I'm in the valley, not at the peak. When it's the world's ending. Like, what is your best advice? Because you've been around. You came down with a couple $100 in your car, shocked your family, very close to your family, shocked them like, I'm going to drive down here, slept, got down here, didn't have a crazy great plan.
No, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any connections. I just said, I'm going to make it work.
How did you, when you're waking up in your car, trying to find a place to live, trying to find a way to make a living, trying to get your first place on your own, trying to accumulate enough money to be remotely comfortable, how did you survive those tough times? Because that's where most of the people get effed up.
Mindset.
Explain that. What did you do? How'd you do it?
Your attitude is everything.
Okay.
Right? I firmly believe, so I'm a huge, talk about research, I love science.
Okay.
Right? So biology, astronomy, quantum mechanics, physics, like I believe everything is interconnected. Entanglement theory. right? We were all connected physically, so we're all still connected energetically, right? Attitude of gratitude, always be mindful, always be present. So for me, it was always just like, I didn't even have the fear of things won't work out. I am going to make things work. Things will work out.
And no matter what happened,
no matter
you
what,
never lost that.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what. You have to make sure you understand that everything is going to be okay. Even if the way that it turns out isn't what you assumed would be okay, you're still okay. You're still alive. You still have another chance. Tomorrow's a new day, right? The sun will rise. You know what I mean?
And the people in your life at that time when you had that attitude, were they like you, not like you? Were you able to deal with negative people? How'd you do that?
It's weird. I don't know where I learned it from, actually, because my dad was highly ambitious, but not... he wasn't outspoken about it. My dad was like an ambitious, quiet person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like hard to extract words from him. You know what I mean? So, and that's fine. Maybe that's what made me want to say so many words, is like, this is what I learned from my dad's silence. And like, you know, this is what I want to portray to other people and teach them. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. If you have everything you ever wanted and you become boastful and you become rude and you become all these things that you never wanted to be, you never should have had it in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be grateful for everything that you have, even if it's not everything that you want at that time. And because you are grateful for what you have, the universe will continue to give you more. I think that level of abundance will only occur as you're ready to have it. So I think it's all a mindset.
All right. Well, first of all, unfortunately, this is our time because you're an unfreaking believable guest.
Thank you.
People that want to maybe talk to you about getting a piece done, want to connect with you about anything, great dude to connect with, by the way, about anything you want to do. We're going to do some other stuff and talk about more things we can do together, because a lot of the areas you're talking about, I'm like, dude, he brings so much to the table that I don't bring in certain areas. So I'm excited about it. How do they find you and connect with you?
Instagram is Transparent Artist. You can also go to transparentartist.com. And that's it. You know, reach out, and if you want anything custom, I do pounds, ones, euros, pesos, shekels, cryptocurrency pieces, stock certificates.
I might have him do a crypto and like piss on that fucking thing. I might have to do that. I'm gonna talk to you about my feelings on crypto. Then he can create me a fucking crypto piece to live for 500 years, and we'll be talking about it. So, hey guys, find my man Josh, dude. It was an absolute honor to have you on, brother.
Thank you, Sean.
I mean it. I appreciate you. Guys, follow him, connect with him, get on Instagram, check out his art. You'll see a piece of my house when we get my piece done. And then we should do some pieces as you're making my piece and cut some video and get it to my man over here. And we can start like kind of showing some of that. That'd be pretty badass.
I love it.
So, guys.
Papa Giorgio. Remember the fake ID, Mr. Papa Giorgio?
Yeah.
We should do a big one for you, bro.
Hey, I'm in with whatever you want to do, bro. I trust you and the way your mind works. Guys, I appreciate you getting on another episode of Punch Me in the Face. Always appreciate your time. I hope it helps and makes a difference. So when you go ahead and you're fighting in your life and you're doing the shit you're doing and life tries to punch you in the face and you have some relativity about what's going on and you find your passion, because when you find your passion, you speak, talk, and act like this. But I love you all and appreciate you guys.